Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is just start putting everything back together. We're going to start putting the fairing mount back on. Now the one thing you want to make sure you do is you have these front bolts here tight on the handlebars, because once you start getting this on there, you can't get to those. So you want to just kind of tuck everything, you know, tuck it in the sides, kind of tuck it out of the way, make sure all your wires are coming through. So when you get this up on there, you don't want to pinch any wires. So you're just going to kind of set this up on here for now. And I just put like a couple bolts in it just to hold it. Because then if you have to move something, you still can wobble it around if you have a wire in there. So you're just going to start feeding these wires through. Just take your time and kind of stiff. Okay, so now you can see most of them are through. Now what you're going to want to do is just start hooking the wires up, connecting them back up to where they go. I like to leave this kind of till last to bolt this clamp here and bolt this one there, just because if you still need to move something, you can still disconnect stuff. So just go and start connecting stuff back up. If you had to, if you mark stuff first, look at your tape so you can see right where everything goes. One that's stuck here. And that's why you don't want to have this all tight, because I needed to pull this out a little bit to get this one unstuck. And this is something, just take your time and you'll see everything kind of goes together halfway quick and easy. And a lot of these, when you put them together, you'll hear it click. So make sure that when you do it, you hear them clicking together. Okay, so for the most part, that's most of them. We have a few small little ones that turn signals and all that. We can hook that up as we go, get the stuff out of the way. Headlights. Those go up there to the cigarette lighter. And I'll show you, if you cut those zip ties off the right way, you just put one back through that little holder, and you can kind of start putting them back together. Thing broke. Okay, so that's all we're going to do. We're just going to go and keep plugging in wiring. Once we get everything pretty well where we want it, and we know everything's hooked up right, which we're really close right now, we're just going to bolt these clamps back on. We'll put that one on. We'll just finish hooking up the wires, and when we get all that done, we'll come back. Okay, so you can see we have everything bolted on. We have the whole mount here bolted on. We have all the wires zip tied up. Everything's there. We kind of left the wires hanging here for the headlight, for the turn signals, so they're kind of easy to get to. Now on this particular bike, customer wanted us to use one of our hidden antennas. He doesn't want to have the antenna out the back. So we just disconnected this. When we took it apart, we just took the wire and just kind of zip tied it up here, the old antenna wire that's running to the back. You can take it completely out if you want to take the gas tank and the seat and all that off. You can take the wire completely out, but we chose not to. We just kind of tied it up. So this antenna, it's just simple as this. You just plug it in. Just make sure you get it pushed in all the way. And they give you plenty of wire. All we do is we just kind of mount it up under here. It's got sticky back on there. So we just kind of take these wires and loop them together here, because you don't really need all that. And then we just zip tie it together. And this really doesn't matter where you put it. You can kind of stick it wherever. And even if it doesn't stick, it's not the end of the world. We just kind of do that and let that loop around, and then it'll just kind of sit under there. So basically, that's all there is to putting that stuff together. Now we'll pop the fairing on real quick. And I just kind of get this on there. And if you look, the way this goes back on, you have these tabs here, these little fingers here. Those snap into these holes. So you kind of have to lift it up and set it down on. And when you're doing this, just make sure your wires and everything are still out of the way. So we just kind of set it on like that, just to kind of get a look, make sure everything's out of the way, nothing's sticking out. hanging out. Make sure your cables all can still move okay. You know, your brake lines aren't pinched off. Just go around and double check everything and make sure everything's okay. So now that we see that's good, now we're going to put our top part of the dash on. And again, if you remember, you had to take this off. Just kind of set that back on there. It's a 10 millimeter, just tighten it up. Have a couple screws here. Pop the top piece of the dash on. This is kind of, you got to kind of get the little fingers in. This is kind of a pain to put on. Kind of just has to snap in just right. Now that all that's on, now you can go and put the outer dash back, or the outer fairing on. Now, if it's easier for you to kind of reach through here and plug the turn signals on before you hook everything up, you might want to do that. It may be easier just to put it on all the way, whatever works for you. Okay, now it's starting to look like a motorcycle again. So we're just going to kind of tuck these wires out of the way here yet. There, kind of snaps on. So now you're starting to look like a motorcycle again. So what we'll do next is we'll put the headlight in. Okay, so now we'll just put the headlight in. We pull the wires out. You got the one wire that says top bulb, and the other one obviously is the bottom bulb. So, just like it sounds, plug it in. Now you kind of have to set the bottom in first a little bit. I find that works a little easier. Kind of set that in, and then it just pops in like that. So we'll get the bolts. And again, don't tighten them all up, just get them all started. Okay, now the one thing I do now is I give it a little test, turn it on, make sure your headlight works. Blinkers. Make sure all that works. High beam. Make sure just everything works. All your lights on your dash should come on. Everything should work. So that way you know everything's connected up before you go and finish bolting everything together. You can pop your headlight ring in now. And this is just on these clips here. You just line the clips in the rectangle holes and just kind of give it a pop and it'll go right on. So just look and get them all lined up first before you give it that pop or you can break them. Okay, so that's all there is to that. So now the next thing we'll do is we will get the inner dash kind of figured out. So this display moves, so it can just kind of sit there. But what you might have a little trouble now is because all this stuff is in a different place. Your bars may not be in the right spot, so you may have to work the bars down, up, whatever, to get everything so it's right. So again, you just kind of stick it in there. And a lot of times this is a little bit more of a pain in the butt now. It usually doesn't go in as easy as it came out. And you want to be careful. You don't want to go prying on stuff because you can crack this. And you want to go kind of easy because you can scratch your handlebars. So we kind of get that right there. Now the one trick that you can do to this is, and I should have showed you it in the beginning, but this piece here connects right out in front of here. So when you have the fairing off, you could actually, if you were doing that, you can actually disconnect that and take this off as one whole unit. We didn't do it this way because we still were taking the inner fairing off. We wanted to show you guys how to get this off without taking everything else off. But that's one way. So now what you can do is you can actually bolt this onto here without climbing, like it was really hard to get to those screws. It's a little bit easier right now to do that. So I'm going to get that bolted on, then we'll come right back. Okay, so we went and got everything bolted up. We got all the screws on the fairing down to the bottom. The display, all this is bolted in. So the only last ones we got are the ones in the speaker slots. Okay, so you pop those in. Put your speaker grills in. They just kind of take those and kind of hook them in. And on this side you have that tit right there, it goes in the rubber. Pop that in. The same on this side, just hook it in. And you can kind of look through here and you can see if it's going to be in the slot there. And that's that. And your bezels, they just go the same way, just kind of put them in. And just push on them all the way around and feel them on the edge. Make sure that they are all the way snapped in, because if they're not, they could fall out. The last thing we're going to do here is put the windshield on. Okay, now, once you get all that done, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to sit on the bike, and you're going to want to adjust all your controls, swivel everything where you want it to be. Get the handlebars where you want them to be first. Once you get that done, then you can take the controls and swivel everything to where you want. If your mirror is out of whack, and I get this complaint a lot of times, people say, well, my mirror's too high. All you got to do is loosen this clamp and just twist this down, and the mirror will go down with it. A lot of people don't realize that. So get the levers right where you want them, get this all angled out where you want it after you get the bars set and adjusted how you want them. Once you get that done, make sure you tighten everything up. You're going to tighten all this side back up. You're going to swivel your cruise control buttons here, put those back up where they need to be, because like I said, you can't get to these screws. Once this is up here, it's really hard to get to the screws for this housing. So leave that kind of hang there. Get that all done, screw your mirrors back on, and then you'll be all set. Then we'll come back, once we get this, we'll show you how to put the front fender on. Okay, so the last thing we have to do is we have to bolt the fender on. So with the fenders that we offer them painted or bare metal, but most people choose the painted ones to match the bike. So you get the fender, it's a metal fender. You get the spacer kit, or the mounting blocks, and you get the bolts to put it all together. So it's really pretty easy. You just kind of slide this in there. Just kind of get it lined up. Now the mounting blocks, the curved part goes towards the fork. So what you want to do, you kind of put a bolt in to kind of help hold it. It's a little bit of a tight fit. Just put your bolt in, and you can't really get your finger in there, so I kind of push the bolt through this way, and then you just line it up with the hole. Putting the nut on the back. Do the same thing with the other one. Kind of hard with that tie down there. And you don't want to tighten them up until you get it, till you get the other bolts on the other side. Do the same thing on the other side. Now this side would be a little harder because you can't really push the fender over all the way. So you kind of have to spread that in, and these fenders are pretty heavy duty, so they don't bend real easy. So kind of get it lined up. And now that you got the bolt, got both of them in there, you can tighten the fender up. And you can put a dab of Loctite on there if you want. We give you a locking nut in the kit, so it's really not necessary, but you can put it on if you want. Fender's nice and tight on there. You have plenty of clearance here, and you can see we have this bike pulled down with the tie down straps, which is making this clearance a lot tighter. But you can see you have plenty of clearance. Looks perfect. The paint color is a perfect match. So that's basically all there is to putting on a 23-inch front wheel on your cross-country tour, hardball, or crossroads. So it's quite a bit of work, but you can see you can do it yourself. It's not that big a job. Take your time, follow the steps I showed you, and you can do it yourself and save some money. Have the pride of doing it and make your bike look really cool. Thanks for watching.